Together with our partners and our supporters, our experts from USDA, NRCS, FSA, and our very own Dr. Calvin King, we'll be presenting information that is included on our agenda today so that we can provide the services that are necessary for our farmers and for the urban communities to better their situations and to improve their operations. This type of events will be used to provide a connection with those services that are available in these communities that have been underserved in the past. One of our aims is to promote the historical, the cultural, as well as the economic development of the rural and unserved communities. As I said about our membership, it's an important part of our organization. And these intake forms that are provided are very valuable to provide information to us and moving forward. So I'm going to move out of the way and have our mayor's assistant to welcome everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. Unfortunately, the mayor could not be here, so I'm here on his behalf. And we welcome you to Osceola, and we appreciate you guys taking the time out to educate the farmers in the area and also our community and helping them become more successful in this community. So we appreciate you guys' time today, and let me know if you guys need anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Dr. Calvin.
President,
yeah, press the button, I think. Press it.
Good morning, everyone. As the Sweden said, my name is Calvin King. I'm the president of Arkansas Land and Green Development Corporation. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what this particular meeting is all about. As Mr. Larkin said, it is an outreach meeting. And this particular meeting, we're going to cover some very, very key areas. One is access to resources, know the USDA resources, both from Natural Resources Conservation Services, from Farm Service Agency, as well as from USDA Rural Development. I'll be speaking some briefly to those resources relevant to the USDA Rural Development in their absence. Just as a brief outline of the areas that we'll be speaking to, one is we'll talk about prosperity communities. And prosperity communities are more relevant to USDA rural development. And what one can do, and with USDA, and that's basically a community like Osceola. It may be another connecting community to Osceola. I'm going to use Jonah as an example. I'm going to use another small town as an example that I know of. It may be Birdsong as being an example as well. But where communities come together and say that they want to create a plan, do a plan that is relevant to the needs of their communities. Now, USDA can literally build a city and develop rural areas throughout, from the conservation perspective, from the farming agriculture standpoint, from the rural business perspective, from a housing perspective, infrastructure development as well. Now that's involving team of what we call One USDA, utilizing all of the USDA agencies and the resources that they have at hand and putting them into a plan for submitting to USDA for consideration from access to the resources, put it like that, for investment. Submitting to them for investment. Infrastructure may be a part of that. Community facilities may be a part of that, from a rural development standpoint. It could be water sewer system. It could be creating or starting new businesses that would involve access to both grant funding as well as loan financing from USDA rural development, expanding an existing business, establishing a new business that's going to be about job creation in the area. That's what USDA rural development, that's both on grant dollars as well as for its loan dollar perspective. The other area we'll talk about will be housing from the USDA rural development standpoint. And I'll come back and talk more in detail about that particular area after Natural Resource Conservation Services and Farm Service Agency have finished their presentation. The other area, of course, conservation opportunities, they're going to speak to that, micro-urban farm, and how Natural Resource Conservation Services is involved in micro-urban farming. Now, it used to be a thing that, dealing with farming from an agriculture standpoint, we're talking about big agriculture, we're talking about thousands of acres, 15, 2,000, 10,000 acres or more, and even larger than that, 20,000 acres or 50,000 acres from a farm perspective. Well, that's no longer so. 2018 Farm Bill, they put micro-urban or urban agriculture became a reality. So it could be anything from a lot to a half acre. I forgot, and they can tell you what the minimum amount is that is required. It's a matter of accessing resources, programs, even for those micro-urban farms. Now, at one time, I know under the CSP program, it's a 10 by 10. So the smallest farm can be a 10 by 10 and be a farm. 10 by 10, new farm. Now, what does that mean? Basically what that means, and they'll talk more in detail about it from the conservation perspective, but it means one is that whatever your operating costs would be with the feasible farm plan, producing certain agricultural enterprises on that 10 by 10 and access to the market, then you qualify for financing from FSA. The same thing would apply from a conservation program perspective, and they'll talk about that. One of the things with NRCS, and I was very glad to hear at one time under the CSP program, the minimum payment that one will be able to receive out of CSP was $1,500. I don't know how to work with 10 by 10, but they can tell you more detail there, right? But that means that on a micro-urban farm now on the CSP program, that the minimum amount of receipt that one can receive is $4,000. So now they'll tell you what CSP is all about. I'm not going to get into what conservation stewardship practice is all about, and they can explain that. And of course, the benefits of the program are not just from the farmer perspective, but also from a soil perspective, soil and nutrient factors and what's involved in that whole process. The other thing you'll hear us talk about today, what I'm going to mention particularly, is the importance of rural communities, particularly ranchers, being more involved with or having a better understanding of drones and agriculture. It's something that we've been engaged in for a period of time now, particularly dealing with cattle ranchers. It can be used in a number of other ways as well in dealing with production agriculture. Some research we're doing on that right now, but as we look at agriculture, even if you're going out scouting the fields. Now, I know you use the four-wheelers and all to ride around and access from one turn road to another turn road, but drones become a different approach in how you look at doing both scouting fields and various other activities, particularly as it could have to do with NRCS, if it's about a verification of practices being employed that you may have signed up for. Then having flying the drone, getting all the necessary pictures, and then getting those, particularly on the larger field, you talk about larger field, about my urban farm now, but on your larger fields, and getting that verification information back to NRCS. Now, as my understanding, NRCS and USDA, they're not allowed to use the drones, but it does not mean that producers themselves cannot use the drones, understand how to use them, and provide certain information back to them. And I call that engaging more in a very positive partnership from a private and public perspective with those who are investing and partnering back with the farmers, either from a program investment perspective or from a financing perspective. Another area that we're going to talk about, and I'll speak more to this, but the other agencies will speak to it as it has to do with program and program services, and it's air property. Air property has been and still is an issue as it relates to minority farmers, as it relates to some of the more lower income segments, not minimum, but mid-income sectors of our population, and just our population in general. Everyone experienced air property from one extent, to another. It could be major assets. It could be what one may consider as being a minor asset. It could simply just be a house, a home. But air property becomes a barrier and a challenge in accessing certain resources from USDA. And the same thing would apply if you're talking about private financing as well. And what do we mean? Air property, undivided interest in property, and when there's no will left, that is specifically set out one individuals who will serve in the administrative position or have the administrative authority for that property where you have undivided interest. Basically, in all the other areas in agreement with this one person representing all others who have a vested interest in that property. So air property, any questions that individuals may have as it relates to that, then I think we will be able to, if not answer it, we can definitely put you on hold and get an answer for it and get back to you. One thing now that's been very positive for Arkansas and has not occurred in all states is that Arkansas has passed what's called the Unified Air Property Act. I'll come back and talk more about that. What does that mean from an air property perspective? What does that mean for you if you happen to be involved with air property? And specifically, if it's air property where there may be a dispute or individuals that have different opinions as to how they want to deal with the air property itself. But the Unified Air Property Act speaks to that, and it works more from a very positive perspective. It can work from a more positive perspective, both relative to the courts as well as the family members and others who may be involved. Other areas that we're going to talk about, and this is probably going to fall more with Farm Service Agency, but we're going to talk about farm certification. If not with FSA, then I'll talk some about that, who can actually certify a farm. And the farm certification, more specifically, and I'm not saying going in certifying the planetary crops and the larger row crop producers, but I'm specifically speaking to horticultural crop or vegetable crop producers. And farm certification is basically where you take your operation, do a process, and you get it certified by the State Department of Agriculture, saying that you operate that farm in a manner where you adhere to good agricultural production practices and good agricultural handling practices relative to the market that you're going to supply. So we'll talk some about that as well, and try to respond to any questions individuals may have as it has to do with farm certification. So a lot of information, very, very, very positive resource agencies that are here. And when I say resource agencies, I mean resources from the perspective that they are serious resource agencies as it relates to financial resources. And as it relates to the information on how to access those financial resources on both agency sides. So I'm gonna stop at this point now, turn it back over to Ms. Williams, and we will move on from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McKean. And I am the moderator this hour. I am the forum advisor. We're gonna have natural resource conservation in RCS. Next Julie Bennett. Speak on NRCS programs.
Scoot up here so I can see my PowerPoint. So thank you for the introduction. I'm Julie Bennett. I'm the district conservationist here in Mississippi County. So I'm over the entire county. So whether you're in Blah or Osceola, I'm the person you call for Natural Resources Conservation Service. So we began, Natural Resource Conservation Service began as a soil conservation service. You might have heard that. In 1935 as a response to the Dust Bowl. So our mission is to deliver conservation solutions to protect natural resources and feed a growing world. We offer both technical and financial assistance. We are completely voluntary. So, I'm not going to come out on your farm or look at your urban system unless you call me and ask me for assistance. And then I'm happy to come out and offer any technical assistance and look at maybe getting you some financial assistance, but we are voluntary. We have over 2,300 service centers in communities nationwide. So there's a lot of resources and a lot of knowledge out there from NRCS. I might not always know the answer to the question you asked me, but I have a lot of additional resources that I can reach out to. So some of what we're going to talk about today is, so our newest kind of emphasis is small farms and urban agriculture. And so I think I'm on the fourth slide. There you go. Sorry, I'm a fast talker, so if you need me to slow down, just let me know. I get to go. So this is a special emphasis on smaller productions, less than an acre, and the real reason we're really emphasizing these smaller productions is for food production. And so these include selling directly to the consumer, donating to food banks, and I know there's a food bank in Mississippi County and another's one in Blah. I'm not aware of one in Osceola, but I'm sure there's one also. So we do have a lot of food banks in the area, a coordinated food system using churches, schools, markets, or other networks. So it's the whole point of this program is to give more access to healthy local food in our communities. So that's why it's so important. If you go to the next slide, this to me was really eye-opening. This is talking about food insecurity across the nation. So Arkansas is last. And we are a huge agriculture state. We can do better than this. So that's one of the reasons we have this as a priority for food production. Food insecure households in Arkansas, 16.6% of Arkansas households were uncertain of having or unable to acquire at some time during the year enough food to meet the needs of all their family members. So that really cuts to my heart, and that's really why we want to increase participation in this program. So next slide, this is just a QR code that will take you to a bunch of different publications. I also brought copies of all these publications if you want to look at it directly. And then at the very end, it's going to give all my contact information. So if you see that you want to look at one of these publications, you didn't have a chance to click on the link, just feel free to email me directly and I can get you copies of any of this. The next slide just shows all the different ways that USDA is involved in the local food chain. And it really points to the fact that we have a lot of different agencies that are focused on this. So I'm just one small part of this. But I'm also happy to put you in contact with a point of contact with any of these other agencies to get you assistance if this is something you're interested in. I think I left, you can go 2 more slides. I left the Farm Service Agency. You can skip, but Eric's here to talk about them, so we're just gonna skip right on past there.
Go back.
Yeah, go to the next one, sorry. So this is where I come in. This NRCS is all about conservation planning. So this is a collaboration between the customer that's needing assistance, whether it's technical or financial, and a trained conservation planner. So most times it starts with a phone call, somebody has a problem on their land, they call me or one of my staff, and we go out there and we talk to the producer and discuss problems or the customer's objectives. We try to analyze natural resource concerns and issues related to soil, water, animals, plants, air, and energy. So that usually includes a field visit. And then we discuss your options for possible conservation practices. And once again, this is a completely voluntary process. You are the decision maker. I'm not going to come onto your land and tell you, you have to do this. You know, at the end of the day, this is your plan and we want to make it work for your land and your operation. Okay, next slide. We want to make sure we address plant productivity and health, and there's a lot of different ways we can do that in both large farm settings and in these micro urban settings. If possible, you know, I know in urban settings, wildlife is not always a concern, but there is some ways we can really help wildlife even in small urban settings. We want to increase irrigation water use efficiency. You know, Arkansas is a state where watershed decline is an issue, so we want to make sure if we're using water that we use it the most efficient way we can. We want to improve our soil health and we want to reduce soil erosion. So we want this whole circle to work together and to work with your operation with conservation planning. So next slide. We have over 150 conservation practices available in RCS. These are just a few of the there's a few here that are new, and there's a few here that are especially focused or especially useful for small urban farm settings. High tunnel is very popular with people that have put them in. It gives you weeks to months of your growing season longer. And that's a very popular one that we can help you with. A compost facility, that's a newer practice. I don't have a ton of experience with that, but I'll be happy to learn with you on any of these that are newer. Mulching, micro irrigation, cover crop, and wildlife habitat planting. But like I said, there's over 150 practices. I have a booklet of all available practices. And then of course, the website, you can always look on the website for Arkansas. Next slide. So we have 2 main farm bill programs at NRCS. The first one is Environmental Quality Incentives Program, also known by the acronym EQIP. This is where we install structural, vegetative, and management practices to help with management issues on your farm. So this is an incentive payment. Once you get in, this is a competitive process, and it starts with an application, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And these are accepted throughout the year, but our next deadline for our Environmental Quality Incentives Program is December 8th. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You have a month to, if this is something you want to explore. This fiscal year, December 8th really needs to be in your head as you need to contact me before December 8th. Contract timelines vary from 1 to 10 years in EQIP. Most contracts in Mississippi County are about 3 years. That's been very manageable for us, but we look at how long it takes, and we have a big discussion about that. We don't just contract you for things willy-nilly. We go through and figure out when you can do what, and so then we contract it out over that 3 years based on your timeline too. Okay, next slide. So program eligibility for EQIP. So there has to be a resource concern that needs to be met to be eligible for EQIP. But those, you know, it could be irrigation efficiency, it could be soil health. We have a lot of, you know, micro irrigation. There's a lot of different ways we can have a resource concern on your property. Degradation of the soil, air, animal resource. So that's something that you don't have to worry about. We would come out as staff and look at your operation and help you, you know, we would determine what resource concerns. Next slide. Also, the applicant must be an agriculture producer, so you must be owner or renter on the ag operation. You must have an interest in what is produced on the operation. You must have control of the land for the length of the contract. So if it's a lease agreement that you have, you need to make sure you have that lease for the whole 3 years of the contract. Or if you have a deed, and you must be in compliance with highly erodible and wetland conservation provisions, which that's something we talk more about when you apply. There is no minimum agricultural income requirement. So that's something, that's a myth that has kind of spread around, that you have to make so much on your farm to be eligible for our programs. So I want to make sure that I point that out. There is no minimum agricultural income requirement for you to be eligible for our programs. So then the final program eligibility is that the land has to be eligible. Next slide. Thank you. So it has to be privately owned or tribal land. It can be publicly owned land, but you can see that there's some criteria to that. So that we could deal more with that on a case-by-case basis if you're wanting to operate on publicly owned land. We can look into those details some more. So the next slide is when we're going to talk about small scale scenarios under EQIP. So one of those, like I said, is a compost facility. I haven't ever planned one of these, but they're getting more and more popular, and they really can increase the production of your soil health and allows for some really good increases. So like I said, that I'm happy to look into it with you. Low tunnels, changes from typical size units. So we used to do everything in 1 acres. And so when we're getting into these micro urban farms, you know, a lot of times people don't have an acre. So we've dropped a lot of the small, and we're now able to do things in square feet. So that's made it a lot easier to plan some of these. And then there's some new cost share rates that just came out in fiscal year 24. So if you've looked into this in prior years, make sure you check in with us again, because there's been a lot of adjusting of those rates to more closely reflect some of these smaller operations. We now have a lot better understanding of how these small farms work, and there's been a lot more research into them, and so the cost rates have changed for the better to reflect that. Next slide. Historically underserved. So the different on NRCS, these are our 4. So we have beginning farmer or rancher, that's less than 10 years of farming. Socially disadvantaged, a member of a group who has been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice because of their identity as a member of the group. Then we have veteran farmers and ranchers served with the armed forces, and we have limited resource farmer and rancher. And there's a tool you can use that you can click on, but I did look it up today, the limited resource farmer rancher, and it's county specific, and in Mississippi County, it's total household income of less than 30,000 adjusted gross income. So just for your information, and those are all something that we would talk about closer to application time too. But those are all of the historically underserved categories get extra preference in our application process. So if you do fall into any of those, make sure that you mark that on your application so we can make sure to get you the services you need. Next slide. So the other Farm Bill program that we offer financial assistance through is the Conservation Stewardship Program. And so normally this is where we take conservation to the next level. Usually people have been in an EQIP contract, they're already doing a lot of our conservation practices, but they're ready to step it up. So we compensate agriculture and forest producers who agree to increase their level of conservation and adopt additional activities. And so we do quite an extensive evaluation of your operation, and we work with you to get you into this CSP program. The urban component of CSP is very new, and we just had a training on it. And so I'm excited that minimum payment it's very, I think we're gonna get a lot more small operations to be able to participate in CSP going forward. So there's a lot of new CSP activities and enhancements for smaller operations too. So it's really a time of growth in ALCDC. And I'm excited about it. I think we're gonna get a lot more participation from our smaller operations that probably just before now, it wasn't worth coming in and doing the paperwork for. And one thing I wanna say is, please don't be intimidated. You know, the federal government can be intimidating. We do have a lot of paperwork. We have a lot of acronyms. We have a lot of, you know, buzzwords that we use that the general public isn't really aware of, but that's what my job and Eric's job is, and my staff's job is to walk you through that process, make it as painless as possible. So please don't, you know, if you talk to friends or neighbors that maybe have gone through the process, and say, oh, it's a lot of paperwork. Well, that's what my salary is for, to help you with that. So don't hesitate. If you don't know what some of it means, I mean, we all were there. I'm an employee, and sometimes still I have to reach out to people and say, oh, I have this. You know, so don't let that intimidate you. So CFP is a 5-year contract, no minimum acreage requirement now, and the entire operation must be annual. So whatever you garden on farmland has to be included in this contract. And then of course we talked about already $4,000 minimum payment. So that's gone up considerably. So that's all I have. I know I'm the last talker. The next slide is all our contact information. Feel free to email me, call me. That's my cell. You can text. That's my work cell phone. If you're, I don't have some fixers that only want to text now, and that's fine too. And then, you know, I'm happy to walk you through any of this. The big takeaway is, if anything I've said today interests you, make sure you come by my office. We're on 3137 West Concert, Outhouse Farm Bureau, and make sure you come by and sit down and chat with me, or shoot me an email. December 8th will be a lot of deadlines that you want to make sure you don't miss out on. So you got a month, and I'm happy to help you with anything. You know, I've worked with everything from very small productions and backyards to, you know, 3,000 acre operations now. You know, we have everything in this city county, from watermelons, you know, we have peanuts, you know, it's not just big row crops anymore. We do have a lot of alternative crops, and a lot of our soil here is amazing. And, you know, you can grow a lot of quality food for our community. And so I'm happy to help you with anything.
I was good.
Yes, any questions? I'm sorry.
Mike, or respond.
Yes.
And of course, I know that there are other programs involved. Understand right now, and as I understand it, in order for you to be able to receive the benefit of equal and say to the individual land is the name and how it does not have farm. The only thing that you have to have is a farm.
Correct, and I have a step-by-step guide that I'm handing out to the people in the audience. It takes it down to the very lowest level of walk into the office, ask for a partner, and this is what you need to bring in. And then the next step is come, you know, give the email, or so I will make sure that I'll get a copy of that, because it breaks it down. To make it much more simple, and it's about check boxes, so you know you haven't missed any steps, and that's a pretty fast process now to get that farm track number. So that is step one, but you know, I'm happy to even if you don't have a farm and track number, sometimes people just want you to come out and look at their operation first. So they might say, do you think a hot tub will work here? Because they don't want to go get a farm and track number if, you know, we talk about the program and it's something they're not interested in. So you don't need a farm and track number for me to come out and give you technical advice. The only time you need a farm and track number is if you want to apply for financial assistance. But I'm happy to come out and offer technical assistance, you know, first thing.
Right, yeah, I understand that, just to, in order to benefit from this program,
Yes.
one of the benefits of the program is, to say, you know, for all of, a lot, that is a 25, and how you can better protect our 10, if you don't. And they qualify for a micro urban side of operation. The first thing they need to get is a farm number. So in order to sign up for your program, of course, I know that a lot of information that be provided up in the program and practices that may be a part of that particular equal contract. But and then just tagging on to that, it is a normal practice, in the best interest of the individual, if they're assignment for equal and it's like for a hoop house, and you're going to get a hoop house that's going to be 10 by 10 by 20 by 20 hoop house. Qualifying that have the micro urban farm, but that gives them an extended production time and doing multiple crops, and get that one. But with the equal contract and all the different areas that we're looking at, we recommend that the CFP conservation stewardship contract be a separate contract from the equal and not including the CFP price in equal.
Yes, it's you. We can include equal practices in CSP, but to my knowledge, you can't include CSP practices in equal. So we could do both applications at the same time. If they just can't, it can't be the same practice in two different continents.
Right, because that was so if you have the equal contract and to get the maximum, well, let me bring this another way. That is the maximum amount of dollars that will that dealers and cost package and equal to the $13,000, $18,000 on the $2,000. And for the minimum amount for CSP, that's $4,000, okay, on certain packages. So 18,000 on 2,000, that's $22,000 under that particular contract, not to include other type of practice that possibly should be irrigation of the things that need to be a part of that. And that's why I asked that question regarding the CSP, which would be in the compliance period of the CSP during the compliance period for the equal. Equal is what, 5 years?
Usually 3 years.
Okay.
But we can do about 5 and then CSP is 5.
Okay.
So you could do those management practices in your house under CSP and have 2 different contracts, as long as we don't pay them in the.
You know, so one time, right, that's just a broad base.
Yes.
And I'm gonna give it to a compliance time period, and I was looking at that, you have the compliance time period, that is normally best to get the minimum on the equal of the 3 years versus the 5 years, because the 3 year compliance period on one, and on the CSP, up to 7 years, on 5 and 7 years on the CSP, so you get the expanded, time minimum $4,000 a year over a 7-year period on the CSP.
I've only been authorized to do 5. Yeah. Yeah, it's very, I think it's gonna really increase our participation in CSP, especially in our small operations.
But contract, CSP contract, equal contract, and all of both these contracts we have with the basis of one farm operation and one farm loan. So $20,000 5 years from CSP, 18,000 roughly on the each rep. So if you wish to post a $49 just conservation program contracts, not including, what type of offering the loans, because the FSA will be very valuable, but I think put the thing that okay.
One more thing I'm going, I did not touch on the IRA, and it's on the agenda, the Inflation Reduction Act. So the Inflation Reduction Act is the part of the reason that we have this increased amount of funding, and it is a wonderful time, to get involved in conservation. It's really good. There's going to be more funding than we've seen in quite some time out there. So if it's ever been something you're interested in, now's the time to call us. It's a good time.
I guess I'm not right to the purpose. Normally, most rural areas that we live in, rural areas, this is the numbers on these micro urban farms, one that's showing the census. That's what's going on. But most of this information is showing that they are going to show the same. It probably has one of the large growth areas, potential market growth areas for this. For our experience, so for the potential growth and numbers of micro urban farms there, and these resources are separate. It's a separate part of funding of money for the micro urban. That is for the traditional farming operation, and that's more like you use it on your lose it.
Yeah, and you know what, I live here, I work here, I go to church here in the county, so I've always said this, if there's money out there, I would to give it to come to my community, so, we have a great opportunity to bring some additional resources in, and we know already that we can garden, and we can grow amazing vegetables and fruits, and, our ground is ready for it, and a lot of us are already doing it. So this is just a way to help to address some extra resource concerns, and at the same time, provide some financial assistance to folks that are probably already doing a lot of this. Maybe they're doing it, granting time to do it, and I might show them a little bit different way to do it, but this is a great opportunity for us. There's a lot of, I think there will be a lot of demand once the group gets out. Yeah.
Not there, and not to get the first meeting here, go out and just get the word out, we're gonna post this on the website, but, to talk about the prosperity communities, what the strongest partnerships that USDA can have now, is the partnership that supports particular amount of small towns that has, the ability to be, some of these small plots that I had, that's one of the other things. We have some gardens and things there, you don't realize it. It's gardens, they can go some beautiful gardens. They don't realize that they qualify, but they can be eligible for these resources, not accessing.
Yeah, because we just need to change our terminology from garden to urban, micro, it's the same thing. So that's one thing I hope that people understand is, your backyard garden is a micro farm now. So, think about it like that. If you are producing food and are willing to, produce food in the community, this is a great way to support it.
One gardening, it is a micro urban farm, it's not just a garden, it's a micro urban farm. And so it's an area where we can, I would say, it's like one pretty, we can not avoid.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was looking at your farm several days. They had some CRP program, conservation program. How much did they pay here in this city county?
That's what we would have to say. Usually hard to say. But that is it.
Coming up next. Hold on.
Since you got the good.
So we provide technical service. So Aaron will say someone's interested in CRP and I'll go out and do the field check, actually an on-site visit. And sometimes Eric, do that together. So, but we don't provide any administration, so I'm providing the financial, yeah. Okay.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think it's right at $100. But that really depends on soils because the rate changes based on soil. Which counts. Yes, in each county, in index to one county, because it'll be based on local rental rate for land.
silly questions. You know, I get questions all day long. I get phone calls. And some people are like, I'm not sure who to call. But somebody said, call you first. And I'm happy. If I'm not the person, you know, just like that question, I'm happy to put you in touch with maybe a better contact. Arkansas Game and Fish, we work closely with Johnson Limited, we work closely with Forestry Commission. Now, y'all, I do the CDC, so, you know, air to property, all of that stuff. If you don't know who to call, you know, I'm happy to be your point of contact, and I'm not the correct person to call. So don't hesitate. There's no silly questions, especially if you're just getting started with USDA. You know, there's a lot of information out there, but sometimes it's overwhelming. So I'm happy to help you with this.
Some people just don't really understand our desire to do an assistance. They think that we're gonna judge them because they don't know. They don't care that they don't know, that's why they do this for help.
Next, we're going to have Marshall agency with Eric, our county executive director, Eric, Dan Rage, and Sandra.
The truth they say that I'm as complicated as a presentation in our CS. But I want everybody to feel comfortable with coming in our office and asking us questions about how do I get started. Number one is we really want a deed and or a lease contract where you put you on there. The deed is if we don't have that ownership straight, we need that straightened up. Or if we need it just so we can draw out a 10 by 10 foot square on our maps, doesn't exist. You know, most cities do not exist on our maps as far as being gridded out. They'll show up in the imagery, but we don't have it sectioned off by yards. But if you bring us that in, or, and I've done this, producers have brought in their new ownership, and I have got them to, I found it on the map, and I've got them to say, okay, this is the yard that I can see on the imagery. I can't tell where the neighbor's yard starts, your yard ends. Can you do that for me? And I'll get them to, I'll load it up, they'll draw it out. This is what I own, and that's okay. It doesn't exceed what we think that you have. And we will draw it out. Boom. They've got a farm number and a tract number with the ownership straightened up, and they can participate with us. And they can participate in our CS. I must admit, on our side, limited participation ability because about all we offer is NAP and farm loan side. NAP is for non-insured crops that normal crop insurance does not cover. But we do have some participants that do participate with the NAP. We have some experience with it. It is a great thing for especially a small producer and the underserved community. They get it for, if they get the 50-50 catastrophic loss, they can get it for free. And if they do buy it, they can buy it with our administrative fees free, and then for half of what the normal insurance premium would be. After that, I've lost what I really need to tell you about, because on the CRP side, we're in between the farm bills. I'm not sure what we can say we can and can't do with that.
But we want to make sure that people are knowing some of the presentation that's on the program side. So I'm going to say there's two sides. They have a program side, you have the program side, and then you have the farm finances, which we're going to be talking about next.
Which is the farm loan side. I don't actually have farm loan presence in my office, but we have produced agents that service us. And if they need to come to my office to service our needs of the producers, they have space in our office to sit and talk and help the producer that.
Just a little description on the buy up on that. and the rating of that, the buy and give you more coverage on the, non-traditional service, program. What's the variance on that as for the business?
More of the control of the government, you could lose. What we normally have is say 65. That is, if they have a loss of 55%. They are for 30%. Or more, then they're eligible for potential for paying if the disaster cause is the covenant cause loss. So if you have a case and you lose a quarter or a penny profit, that's not the 35%, it's 25%, but you still lost. But if you have another that was another 25%, that is you got cannabis. That is above the threshold for loss, or needing loss, and that means we need come to us. It is it can be a shallow market loss threshold where you have your need. So we could actually potentially assist your losses. That doesn't involve some other paperwork you have to establish. You have to get yield established. You have to certify your acres for this time. Plus time of action that you have in the software. But that's not really all it is. The producers.
But we did not decide the micro components, was about the grass, the micro and say you have and you have 3 different problem brands on that. You have squash, you have peas, and you have that. Now something that based on the certification that you certify these crops for insurance coverage. Based on what is established yields, not necessarily by farming operation, mostly by the beginning. So not necessarily by the status of the farming operation beginning farm, but it may be the status used by the county, and of course, those certification on what could be the projected yields would be the extension service. Is not to be recognized in the previous pages.
And I don't think they would help the next property.
But in front of the national records.
National property.
The national property. The extension service page, but it's a national property. It's
Right, we're gonna have to stay with Eric also. We have that we use that USDA sets what they call a national crop table. And when a crop is added as a crop that producers grow in this county, they're pulling data in for that. And our state committee will have input into that data if it's not something that is already available for us, already established. Next.
so this one right?
Yes, the data for NAP that uses looking at yields that's established for a brand new producer coming in, a micro producer that has this in license. It will, you do not have to have the yield already established. We do have the data available to say that this is where a baseline. So that if there is a premium payment in your disaster and indemnity payment in your first year, it's not based on 0. It's based on an average that this is a statistical average already available for the crop you're growing.
That's that question for 2 reasons. One, for those who choose to not urban farmers, and then 2, for the benefit of those who work with urban farms and develop their business plans. So for projecting revenue Again, the revenue is kickback, let that say on the finance side, to look at the yield projection. That it is better to use the national statistical data information, only if that fraud is not established in the county, if it's not recognized by state extension already.
So if there's somebody that wants to find that data, please come talk to me and I will get in touch with the state office and get that data for you. I will find it out. I will reach out to work with go up my food chain and get the information needed if somebody needs it to write their business plan. If you're interested in getting going, please come to us and talk to us and I will get that information for you. I haven't done it because it's not something we have, but what Julie's talking about with the new avenues and dollars open, I hope that I get to learn how to do this. I hope I get to do this. Please challenge me. Bring this into me, let me figure it out, and let me help you get the information that you need for your operation.
So it definitely has to, not even maybe, not the farms and the agents.
Again, this is for the work requirements, but I guess more specifically, in two areas, whatever I say, it's not just working in front of the programs, whatever I say, on the now, it is looking at mitigating risk within the whole process. But looking at it from the financing side and feasibility and projection of the type of revenue. And so you're going to project it. You're going to do a pre-process projection on the one hand, and then you'll have a post-process to deal with on the other hand, and deal with the payment. But now, if there is a loss, and I'm something that we're trying to learn what numbers will they be recognized as the national statistical data information on the state extension service data information, which is there also. As people are probably have a growing process for the human micro to get in problems, both in the NRCS expenses, but also just understanding how the public need to be aware of how they need to look for those other organizations, such as ours and others, in development business plans, one, and then two, in doing that, but how to get buried from one point to another and project the revenue based on feasibility, and then two, what you'll be looking at is towards your minimum based on the basis of risk factors concerned, making a good investment. And we're trying to do that, so that's really. But the point that you recognize the national, but you also recognize state extension.
I don't know the answer to whether or not we recognize state extension. I know for our NAP data, it's added to the national hot tables for the data. I do not know if it would be the same as what extension has. That's something I need to look into to provide an accurate answer to that.
I don't think that national would probably be not state, because we have, we're not behind in the horticultural project where you do status yields from an extension perspective. For instance, when you look at the national statistical data, you're going to be doing that information from that perspective, where you have a major horticultural population in Florida, California, and other states. I would assume that those numbers would be high. And don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you don't take the national figures, but I think the national figures are possibly very better in the interest of the producer, the beginning farmers and micro farmers on revenue projections. But this long as everybody on the same page, the producers on the same page, have that same, they're on the same page from the beginning of the sign-up process, so there's no basic mitigation of risk, and the sign up for the difference between the gap rates of minimum level of coverage versus the violence. And that's what I'm looking for. And how do you draw that, the distinction between and understanding that that gap is the difference. What the happening is on one side, only that you use on the pre on the front end. I guess what you're going to be looking at on the back end, on a post-process basis, or filing, form, with options.
As a beginner, if it is something small situation, the 10 by 10, it might be the most beneficial for an extra to go 50-50 if they're under certain prayer. Because for the part of the year, you will know exactly what you're gonna do. So if you got 50% loss, you know you've got to cover. But if you get into your bigger operation, you might really want to look at how much it's going to cost you to buy and if so, how much of the loss that you might not have. Being put yourself in a position to have to eat loss.
And it's not what, we can give you an estimate of what that buy-up cost would be before you choose to sign the contract to purchase the insurance or not. We do have tools to estimate that and look at what it would be on the 65-100 level. We can also look at lower than that, and that is more feasible.
I'm just going to go back to the ALCDC on that. I'm just hoping that everyone will clearly, matching together between both the ALCDC, the FSA side, and the micro urban farm, and the really want to market and do more of that. You really cannot be a benefit. Business use the all resources. You have to look at it by see it in importance by that. Basically, you deal with $4,000 minimum change all that in the particular plan, and you're talking about a operational plan and conservation plan itself, part of income, and any other costs associated with integrating that goes into that contract itself and the plan. That resource, I guess, what the income resources coming from both the crop producer. I'm going to use 10 by 10, and I want to make sure that on the 10 by 10, we start again based on that and use that. And where you have a 0-point risk factor based on resource projection, both in sales, market availability, and how you actually have to tell them. And I'm really glad that shares that had no middle region to qualify, which is very important.
So that was really good thing for me to find out at the professional level that, I think the IRS is going to say that tools, but that doesn't apply for my agency. If there's no income you have to help yourself. You can call yourself a partner right now if you want to, but you have small operations.
Well, it's not with IRS. I think there's some that changed to a lot of clarity came out of that. Both with the CCAT, food system banks, and I have one hand, as well as the PPP program and schedule F, because of zero funding on the professional funding operation. I'm saying you're not there, but I was challenged for the process, and not only came back to the rules and income is not a basis of eligibility on the data side of it. So, but that's what we're going to matter. Just go down on the front page, other resource bases, and go to the part from the program income side against the revenue side from sales and market distribution. That's not like that.
We have problems, questions. Sometimes we struggle with answers. We have problems hearing questions, looking at things.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? Well, we're down to this behavioral development, which they were not able to be here today, and it will be problems that they will be here December 1st. What we try to find someone else. So they definitely will be here for December meeting. Okay.
In the absence of and again, for public purposes, I do want to mention this, two areas, three areas of program with RD. And specifically as it relates to Mississippi County and the community of Osceola. One that had a affordable housing program. And I suggest that anyone that sees this online or otherwise, that they contact Rural Development about it. Rural Development has an affordable housing program that when it's affordable, it is income driven. You know, you have to meet the income area. I don't have the chart of all those figures with me. But the dollar amount now for a single family home is up to, there's these figures that will be at one time it was $368,000 for a single family home. And I think it's a little bit higher than that now. I'm going to say 380 plus thousand, 370 plus thousand. Don't hold me to that. But RD does have those figures. It's open $368,000 for a single family home. Individuals qualify, custom made on affordable housing. The other area that I'm going to speak to, and this is for rural towns, is some of the resources that they do have is for infrastructure. Now we have small rural towns in some areas that they are experiencing some population growth. And in doing so, they may find that infrastructure, that water source system, is not at the necessary capacity to deal with that growth. Deal with what is taking place in the growth, new construction, new buildings going in, both commercial as well as expansion of subdivisions, housing in the area, and maybe annexing in. Well, the resource for infrastructure and for water source system is USDA will not. That's both for water system line, for sewer system line, pump stations, it may be for any pump station unit, might be for a subdivision that is taking place, and as a result of that, these new, maybe submersible above ground either one or type of pumping units that need to be put in to get more capacity on the existing system that are there. But again, rural government is the agency for that. The other program that they have is a major resource for rural area is the community facility. The community facility resources. That community facility resource is both in the way of both loans as well as grant program. The loan program, it may be I would say civic center or something that nature, may be an existing facility, maybe a fire station, of course, community facility, expansion or a new construction on a fire station. But a community facility, it may be a health center. Community facilities grant program comes to local government as well as its loan program. Again, the kind of criteria is for the buildings concerned. It has to be the income for the areas and other data that second data that they have for the area as well. But that's the community facilities grant loan program. Another program that USDA local government has is that business loan program. Many people don't understand that USDA has some of the greatest resources, both for the direct loan program for business as well as a guaranteed loan program. Working back with the preferred lenders, local banks, just like they do with the loan program, guaranteed loan program with FSA. So they have that particular side as well, for lending. They also have a grant program that relates to business expansion or new business development that's going to result in job creation. It used to be called the Rural Business Enterprise Grant Program. Municipalities are eligible to apply for that. In certain cases, nonprofits have applied for it as well. The key factor behind that is that if you're going to receive the benefit of a grant, and I don't know the maximum dollar amount for that, so I don't use it to figure out, ones I have some old figures, and I know there have been some changes, to the program, and it's probably, and maybe higher than that. But that would be for a facility. If the city was going to build a facility and equip that facility to meet the needs of this new business enterprise that's going to locate to the area with the grant itself. One, that there has to be a clear understanding that there is a business that will locate in that facility or that building once it is completed. Be it labor renovation of the building and equipping that building, construction of a facility for a business location that's going to result in job creation in the area of job expansion. Those are some, only some of which they also have the energy grant program. Now, under the energy grant program, for the most part, as an understanding, you deal with certain modification, upgrading, energy, not say energy, it could be with the heating and cooling systems and things of that nature. That's why the running operation as well as to business and fines and community systems and things of that nature. They do have an energy grant program that's also with USDA government, and they have a technology grant program. It is one of the greatest funding that exists on the technology side. You know, I'm waiting to see and hope that there will be something that will come into existence in the next farm bill that will engage both USDA and NRCS in dealing with conservation and energy. Because that's everything from the windmills to the solar panels. Some have put in these huge solar panel farm deals. Since they're talking about smart agriculture, you know, smart energy, smart, what's the terminology I'm using that? Climate smart. Since they're dealing with climate smart, that's how they joke with climate smart, that was forget. But in dealing with climate smart, you know, practice, and I don't know if they have looked into that on the climate smart based on the use of land and rural development and the technology side or the energy conservation side with the solar panel or not. Use of land conservation practice and gave recommendation of USDA listed this now, different state directors and one other Washington, but it's one of the recommendations. Anyway, that's what the USDA goes along when you talk about the technology and energy program as well. We can have USDA program. And that's only a touch of the surface about the research. Coming back to, you have, it was NRCS and some of this information that was passed out, and I'm only going to give you reference or mention to this. Let's link back to the urban agriculture, ag marketing services is another great resource of housing and resources coming to the state of Arkansas. There's benefits in dealing with the marketing distribution practices, and dealing with agricultural crops and the urban micro farm, you know, side of it. Rural Farm also has the cooperative grant and money program. We have the main cooperatives here in Arkansas, the River Neck is one, that's a cooperative. And they used to be more, and there are others, so the new existence. But RD, USDA Development, have both the normal and grant cooperative program. All of that involved under USDA rule. Again, one get into the areas and relates to the government side of that. There is an application process on the rural business grant side. I think basically all of those applications, they go through the state office. I don't know of any local offices that actually receive or work with the client base for those programs. The infrastructure, I'm sure you can start to look off and it goes back into the state office. On the Olympics and grant program, we have the same situation on that. The grant program, the loan program, I'm thinking the local office would initiate the process for access to deal with that particular program and those resources for a local area. Again, I want to encourage individuals who may not be here, or individuals that you know, who they communicate with, encourage them. Utilize the program, Arkansas, a lot of little areas, such as Osceola, the area around it, also very rural, and need the benefit of those resources that are being made available, and local leadership and individuals who stand to benefit from the program. Have to know how to access the programs, and hopefully we will start to utilize these programs more to serve our community needs. So I just want to go with that from the summary perspective, USDA with I'm not sure if FSA has, but we are going to speak to the long side of the program. You want to do that for FSA. Good question. He says that the best 2 days you talk about along with one service agency. I love one service agency. They got a bunch of research. I'm not FSA, have to have USDA and RCA. I mean, that's just it. Particularly looking at the existing farm bill, the new farm bill, and the Infection Prevention Act program, and all the resources that we can do for that as well. The on the north side of the FSA, you have two, actually three. You have two ways they finance. They want to hear the financing on one side is direct, and the way that they finance is two. On the way that they finance, make loans available directly, while FSA making the loan to the individuals. They also deal with financing from a security perspective, and that's their guarantee program. So any bank and those who are prepared to they make the loan, they make the loan to the borrowers. FSA then provides the guarantee up to 90%. 90% guarantee of security on that loan, mitigating that risk and deal with it as a limit. So that's on the guarantee program side. Now, two ways that they deal with lending, direct and guarantee. Then there are three areas in how they lend from the direct lending side. They have the direct loan program, it's not called a regular loan program, and not just for operating expenses, the two ways. The operating expenses, I think it's if I have these bigger problems, they come for that and say let me get the direct action figures. For operating loan, an individual meeting the eligibility criteria, and I'm beginning from even up to $400,000 for operating expenses. On the capital investment side, for equipment and for land, there's $600,000. So the individuals that may be wanting to either get in the farm at the beginning or be an existing farmer and have not utilize the benefit of FSA resources and finance their operation, the direct loan side, $40,000 operating expenses that the seed, your fuel, your pesticide, your herbicides, all of those things that that you're going to use on an operating basis of that farming operation. Same thing with livestock, business, fencing and things of that nature. Now you can have the equipment side as well. That's a part of the operating expenses. So you can purchase equipment that comes out of $440,000 as well. The only difference is that I'm only going to use this as an example. If you're dealing with an operating loan looking for $100,000 and you should have $250,000 that financing, $600,000 that financing, that's going to be for this regular operating expenses. And another $200,000, I didn't even use another $200,000 in that price expected. But I'm just gonna assume you get a small factor. So you get the small factors, that's all I'm gonna do, $200,000. So if somebody say, wait, $400,000, just really tax, $450,000. But this only the small factors, but small. So when your operating expenses, $200,000 in operating expenses, another $200,000 in child like equipment purchases. The $200,000 for a regular operating expenses has to be paid back at the end of that growing season. That's annual, you're in, you're on the front side, everything about that you to provide security. The operating expenses and that $200,000 that be paid back at the end of the year, for 2 months after the law. On the child side, and equipment side, you have 7 years. So that means that basically you have 7 years to pay out that another $200,000. So they prorate that over a 7-year period of time. So you got $200,000 prorated dollar amount that will result out of that $200,000 that you can pay at the end of the year on your regular operating expenses. That's dealing with the farm operating on. $400,000 max challenge as well as crop production and crop enterprise expenses on the involved in that part of the surprise. Now, on your capital investment side for the plan, of the $600,000 of land, you got 20, maybe a max of 30 years. This is all example. 30 years on your capital expense side for real estate, the real property purchase. For amortization on that, yeah, it might be 20 years or maybe 30 years. I don't know what the exact interest rate is on that now. So I'm not going to give the, because it's changed. Since the tax bond bill in the next 12 months or so, the last thing, but they can verify what the interest rate, growing interest rate is today, but I can guarantee you this, that the living rate, interest rates on that loan is much less than your traditional financing institutions on the bank. So that's on the guarantee program side. I said you have a guarantee side. I don't want to give the dollar figure on that guarantee loan. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't think it's like 1.6 and 1.8 billion on the guarantee loan program side. And again, that's for the banking institution, maybe less than that. So don't hold me to it. But contact FSA to give a specific dollar figure on that. That's on the guarantee loan. The bank makes the loan, FSA is on the guarantee. The other loan program, which is probably more big back to some of the things we just talked about here today, is the micro loan program. The micro loan program works for our service agencies. The micro loan program is up to $50,000. That's the maximum you can get on both sides, both on the operating expense side and on capital or real property investment side with the micro loan. So the max. If you qualify, and let's say you've been operating a different farm, you got to it up the past 3 years in operation. That's one of the qualifying basically that is what the purchase real estate for the capital investment side of it. A real profit, 3 years minimum that you must have as a history of being in a farming enterprise. Now, so you got $50,000 of operating expenses. We've talked some about the minimum size of what can be established or certified as a farm 10 by 10. When you look at the conservation program side and your operating expense side, and then the market part that we talk very briefly about in developing those farm business plans. And I'll suggest anybody. If you want to get a farm and you are applying for NRCS conservation program services, anyone that's going to certify a farm and sign up for that should have a farm business plan. You should have a farm business plan, even if you're not applying for financing, you should have a farm business plan. To know what that farming operation, what that enterprise actually looks like from a revenue perspective. That's in the revenue, you got to pay your taxes on the inmate, because then all it is, once you get a 1099, right? You're gonna get a 1099, and you got a problem, so you're gonna get a 1099, so you know upfront and what you have based on the water plant, even the tax filing purposes, what the revenue is coming off of it. And equally as much, so you need to know what those expenses are that you're going to incur on that farming operation that you're doing there. Because you deal with this revenue coming in, and no basic justification of what you're seeing on the expense side of it, all you're gonna have is a taxable income, even on the conservation. So, either way you go in, you need a farm business plan, and if you want to have that safe for a micro urban law, you have to have a farm business plan, knowing what you're gonna use the money for, one, when you get it, and then how you're gonna pay it back. Given the period of time, before the loan actually matures. So that's on the FSA, finance, on loan side. And I hope that let's say people tell the others like this, these partial justice on their paper. Yes, ma'am.
I would say we can print out for you a template that you can use to build your work or do your farm business plan. If you're interested in that, let us know. We can get it printed and it's got some guidelines and information about what the different, what it's asking. What does this mean? What does that mean? And if you're interested in that, we can get that for you. I'm not a business person, so I don't know what it is. I know I can put it printed and I can get it into your hands so that you can find the information out and get it so that you can then come in and apply for an app and all the other part program stuff.
That's good to know. They go on the RCS side as well. Again, you said one USDA, but the part of the partnership, the start program side again, the farm service agency, they can provide that tax support system they give to children. Based on other farm business plan, and how to develop that farm business plan, beneficial for all of the personal access to the resources of both the state as well as the RCS. So that's all I have.
But I think each and every one,
I think one statement on recommendations. Again, all I'm telling you, we appreciate your participation in the event of the waiting saying, but our plan, we plan to post this presentation on our website. They're also going to our information marketing person. We will publish it back through a newsletter that goes on the state market. So we'll be inviting individuals to check the website, listen to the presentations and what this meeting is all about. And of course, different ask them, because we have to do this. We'll have to be evaluated also. I'm sure we'll get evaluation, the funders going to be good. Our website is going to go small and it's ALCDC.org. And that's ALCDC.org. That's our website. And information and our IT people will be getting this to the website. This is the will be right on table type discussion and we talk about this and we may be inviting somebody on again on one basis for perspective and I YouTube as well. Thank you.
we have a question.
Something to start. Pertaining to their property that program. Say Arkansas, that they actually make an application
We have one company that I am aware of that has been identified. I think you mentioned that there might be some others. I can certainly reach out and check to see if there is more current information than what was available on our website. Our general website is farmers.gov. And that is the portal to get into any of the data that we've talked about for FSA. It's somewhere there. But I can certainly check and see if there is more recent one. Would you like me to do that and get back to you? After we're done, I'll come and get your email address and information so we can be in touch, okay?
Thank you.
And I certainly hope that each and every one of you have, an evaluation forum. And please leave it to complete it and read it with us. Thank you. This is the end.